All right, guys, there's a new book out. This book is super exciting. It covers a local man's journey from wrestling all the way to his new career right here in Rhode Island. Artie Teft hits the mat.
He looks like an unassuming man, but he's really a bad guy. That's Brendan Higgins, formerly known as Knuckles Nelson. He is a former professional wrestler who just wrote a book. And Brendan, tell us all about the book and where you're at these days.
As you said, I'm a former pro wrestler, and I'm now currently a RIPTA driver. My book is about having a spiritual awakening. It's from transitioning from wrestling to yoga, and then finding out that I really wasn't finding all the answers I wanted in life.
So back in the 90s, you were a bad guy and a champion around here in New England, but you're also an enhancement talent in WWE or WWF at the time. Give me a fun anecdote about when you were participating with one of the bigwigs in the WWF way back when.
Well, I started out in 1992 on the independent promotion, and I worked my way up the independents to the higher level independents. And early on, before I was not even close to being ready for what you would call the big time, I went to the Providence Civic Center, which it was called at the time, and when the WWE was in town, and I found Tony Garea, and he was the man that was in charge of enhancement talent, and I told him that I was, interested. He knew what I was looking for before I even opened my mouth, and I told him that I was interested in working for them, and he asked me how long I had been wrestling, and I told him 5 years, which was a lie, and he asked me who trained me, and I told him Paul Roma, which was a lie, and he told me to come to television taping in White Plains, New York the next week, which I did, and the next thing you know, I was standing across the ring from Razor Ramon, who had just won the Intercontinental Championship the night before. I had 16 matches, and Razor was a well-seasoned pro, and the match definitely reflected that when it was over.
Well, you started out as a bad guy lying, so that all makes sense. So from there, you transitioned after the wrestling career. You're a RIPTA bus driver, and you're heavily into yoga, which you go into in the book. So tell us how that happened.
When I transitioned out of wrestling, I had to face a lot of personal issues in my life, most of all addiction, alcohol and drugs. And I managed to have long-term sobriety to this very day, but something was missing in my life. There was a piece to the puzzle that just wasn't quite there. And so I started looking for answers to that. And what I found was yoga, and I went to Rhode Island Power Yoga in North Kingston. And since then, that was in 2014. Since then, I've traveled all over the world practicing yoga. The biggest one that I did was I jumped on my Harley Davidson and I drove deep into the mountains of Virginia to look up my childhood hero, a professional wrestler by the name of Handsome Jimmy, the Boogie Woogie Man Valiant. And I found Boogie in Shawsville, Virginia, a small town outside of Roanoke. And we've developed a very close friendship. And he also helped me further on down the path. But that wasn't also quite the answer that I was looking for. If you like a book with a romantic ending and a happy ending, this book will provide it.
Waking up from the wrestling ring to the yoga mats. Brendan Higgins, thanks for joining us.
The book has been doing well on the wrestling book list. You can find it on Amazon.com. Very cool. All right, guys, coming up on our show.